Hello, this video is very different from what I usually make. Typically, when I find propaganda and pseudoscience in the wild, I don't jump on it. For example, when the Jehovah's Witnesses have set up a propaganda stand, I usually don't take it and regret it later. This time, when I saw something so insane, I definitely clicked on it and saved it for later. Animist, spiritualist, mysticist, New Age mysticist, or heavy naturopath, you may want to stop watching this video, as it may be offensive. The things said in this video are so crazy that it doesn't even need debunking at all. It's ridiculous. It's already been debunked 1,000 times over by real science. And I will put it up to double speed with captions to try and trim it down from 90 minutes. Let's begin.
All right, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. So it is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome Veda Austin, who is an incredible person, mother, author, artist, and communicator and researcher of water. We were thinking that perhaps just to set the tone, I would take maybe 5 minutes, 10 tops, and just tap into Raphael and bring in some sweetness, a bit energy, and expand our...
This almost seems like a little cult thing. Sweetness,
see if there's any messages at all that might pop in for Veda or for any of you. And then we're so excited to talk about water. It feels like water is really coming up into everybody's awareness and consciousness. For those of you, all of you who've been with me for many years, as you know, when I remember recording those little messages back in the day on tape recorders and going back, let me just tune in, my hands kind of move around, conversation with Veda. You know, it's on special trip for us. We both feel a little different. I certainly these structures and temples in honor of the water and for healing and unity around the planet, but we've already...
Okay, I'm just going to try and skip ahead. Pseudoscience then proceeds to go into a strange prayer where she rocks back and forth for over 4 minutes. Get into actual content and stop rocking back and forth, please.
All right. Here we go. This is where we started the conversation. So I'm just going to kind of be quiet and back up and let you guys have a conversation around this, and then we'll go from there.
Medieval era magic
hello.
Stuff.
So these are some of the drawings that we've been receiving after all the travels to the Arctic and the Everest and Egypt, and they've actually honestly come through in dream time, and we're still deciphering them. And we were talking to Veda about them, and there's just so much to learn and explore.
How do people write
the idea is that
do these people have some radio receiver that keeps printing out this stuff?
Build a kind of repository of sacred waters that would also help us integrate energetically with the idea of the inner waters, something we've been connecting with, and understanding how water, once kind of located as a grid perhaps of these temples across the planet, can help us connect to these energies. And there's going to be so many things that we have to learn, the consecration of these waters and what's the experience that one brings with them into these tables, and how sound and mantras and vibrations and the different sacred waters will come together to create specific energies. And so these are some sketches that we started off with, and the idea that there are containers and metal bodies which are also very sentient and almost moving. They were moving, they weren't static. And so there's the idea of creating this movement with the waters and the sound and the geometries. And so and then the others are being asked to print messages that would probably go back out into the ethers in some sense. And right now it's very visual, it's very geometric, and they're still cycles.
No, I don't.
And so again, it's open to
especially on these
what you might see in these
unknown.
And of course, the idea is to explore the secret with the rainbows and the white bow in the Arctic. And we also had so I dropped the egg on the solstice, and Kelly had received specific instructions for how there was going to be a line in the water. It's very abstract, actually, not specific at all. But eventually, I managed to find it in the open ocean between the fjords, and there was really a line, just as Raphael had said, and that was where the egg had to go. There was a specific geolocation, and as soon as that happened, we had a great visitation from a humongous blue whale, and that wasn't very, and 100 beluga whales that came to our vessel with the dropping of the egg, and that was really phenomenal. The captain was so thrilled. He had no idea, by the way, what was going on as part of the residency as well. So that was our little Arctic journey. And so, Veda, we have 3 or 4 key things that we're so keen to learn about. One is, of course, the inner waters, and the codes in the Arctic ice, and how are we to receive them, how are we to decipher what we see, and build this secret code and communication. And there is another piece of, which is something we explored in Ireland. We had this amazing trip, and Kelly ended up opening 9 portals, and which brought us into a whole other set of information about how the waters were conducting and orchestrating this piece with time travel. And so that is something we'd love to hear about from you as well. So mostly those are the themes that we'd love to discuss and open up.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot, I know.
But things, I see things in a very simple way. I think that that's the beauty of water, is that you have a truth when things aren't complicated and they make sense. And the deeper you look, the more sense they make. And that's why I find with water, it should be simple and it should feel right. So one of the things.
Here's the thing. your version of this magic water with all the healing and things like that, that is complicated. That's complicated and ridiculous to reconcile it with science. It actually goes against Occam's razor or whatever it is to suggest all this stuff. We have a firm understanding of what water is. It is a molecule, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. And I guess these people think, since water is very important for life on Earth, it must also have magical healing properties and all that.
You started off talking about was about imprinting water. So I tend to not use the word imprinting because that tends to be another thing that we as humans are putting upon water, because we have forgotten that water has intelligence on all of us. And in many ways, we are bodies of water. So it's actually more of an offering when I think about that.
Certainly is.
So I feel like our terminology over these many, many years has still been treating water as something that has no intelligence. It's just there, and if we do something to it, that's going to make it better. And it's usually something we do to improve us as a human race, or us as far as our health goes. And we've forgotten the power within us. It's almost like we have within us all of the answers. It's not almost like that, it is like that. The sacred water within us, this living water within us, is also outside of us.
Okay, so there's sacred water and non-sacred water. And the sacred water is inside. But no, it's also outside.
And we just haven't recognized it yet. And I think that that's an important piece. So for me personally, with the geometries that we're thinking about, I mean, there's been so many people, like Robert Edward Grant, for example, that talk about geometries and sacred geometries. And of course, sacred geometries have been around and they make up the universe. And water, I've discovered, also has its own language of symbols.
Water,
and it understands itself, and in fact, it uses those symbols to teach itself. And I'll give a really quick example of that.
I think you might.
I'm just assuming that people know what I do here, but basically, I freeze water at a very specific state of freezing, at a specific state of the ice. So there's liquid on top and ice underneath, and then I tip the liquid away and I photograph and look at the crystallography, which is a very thin layer of ice that's stuck to the dish. The whole process takes about 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
And so what I've got is this language of symbols. I have art as well, that most people know about my work, and we have signature patterns. There are 3 ways using this method that I've seen so far that water communicates. But I was doing a study on 5G.
5G. All right then. It looks like we have hit conspiracy theory territory. These people are not just New Age mysticists. They are New Age conspiracy theorists.
And there were so many people having so many reactions to it. And so I got spring water, of which I know its signature pattern. Each water has a specific pattern based on the kind of water it is. So I picked up some beautiful spring water from the same place that helped the water that helped heal my body. And I know the signature pattern, which looks like a large hexagonal pattern.
You know what we call water that is locked in a hexagonal pattern? Ice. Okay?
And then I let that melt, and then I took it to the 5G tags, and then I froze it again within an hour. And what I saw was there had been a shockwave go through.
Shockwave through it. Now, this thing is extremely flawed. Now, in your house, in your freezer and all that, there's still all the dangerous 5G radiation that you were all so scared about, and 4G radiation, and radio, UHF, VHF. The entire radio spectrum is everywhere. And that water most certainly would have been exposed to it back when it was out in the spring, unless it was deep underground. So you bringing it to the cell tower, sure there would be a higher level of microwave radiation there. What's to say that it didn't get damaged just from you shaking it up as you walked back? This is quite a flawed experiment, and, well, really, it's just plain stupid.
The entire water. And when it froze, it was
extremely disordered. Maybe because you were shaking it around.
Its disorder was
to the 5G tower back. Okay, so the magic water that she exposed to the dangerous 5G, she refreezes it until there's the magical
2 years ago,
patterns.
I come back to New Zealand and I did exactly the same thing. I went to the same source of water. I did a control. I hate that word, but people know what I mean when I say that.
Control.
So I did this
that word because you hate science.
Pattern here. I saw the beautiful hexagon. I went and I put it by the exact same tower. I was actually using the same water from the same source, went to the same tower, there for 15 minutes, came back within an hour, I froze it, and the first freeze shows
the semester before. Yeah. I'm not so sure this is a proper control. You're not really ruling out things. That's what controls are for. By no means am I a certified scientist at all, but an example of control would be taking the water, not putting it next to the 5G tower, and doing the same things, and then see what you have, and see if it differs. Does it retain the magical hexagons? I wouldn't think so.
A shockwave, similar to before. However, the second...
And here's another thing. Let me just search something up. This person looks like she's living in a suburban or moderately suburban environment. There are multiple types of 5G, actually. There's the low, mid, and high here. The MM wave, that's the stuff that people are so scared of. But I'm guessing that the tower she went to, if it needs a tower, is probably servicing a more rural area, And the thing about the higher the frequency gets for radio waves, the worse it is at passing through things like that. 24 gigahertz, the highest of the 5Gs, it really can't go through a tree. It will be immediately blocked by all the buildings. And the thing is, low band and mid band, I think, are all below the previous 4G LTE standard in terms of frequency and millimeter wave. And here's the other thing. All the towers have to obey strict safety regulations to make sure that they're not exposing people to too much microwave radiation. So this thing is just ridiculous. Oh,
freeze showed something unexpected. And I think it's important to not expect things from water, but to actually be the observer a little bit more. What I observed was that there was a little bit of disorder, but there were 2 hydroglyphs. That's just a word that I think is a good word for the symbols that I've seen in ice. To say I have one hydroglyph means I have to have seen the same symbol appear using the same word influence at least 50 times.
What is a word influence?
What we found is that there are multiple meanings that seem to be interrelated to one symbol. I don't just use English, I've used this with multiple different languages, and I've had other people help me discover these symbols. There's more to go into it with that because there is more complexity, but the symbols themselves seem to just keep evolving, and I have approximately 45 of them. Now, what I saw in the ice was 2 hydroglyphs. One which means message, it looks like a triangle with a frill on either side, and then the other was information.
Or here's an idea. Maybe you invented this language and you're stamping it in or something.
Which looks a lot like, I guess, like ancient language.
Utterly ridiculous.
So together it was an information message, a message of information. So it was
starting to act like it.
The very next melt and freeze, what we saw was structures that looked even more beautiful than the very first spring water sample. Who designed the natural action tech vortexing unit. Sadly, he unexpectedly passed away in the last few weeks. But he'd written a piece for my upcoming book, and one of the things he said is that he worked with water in a plasma state. I saw one of the comments just for the word plasma there. So he was working with...
Can you really do that? Okay, then.
Because with water in a state which looks like fire, sometimes it's called flater. It's like a laser flame, but it's also water.
Flater. Let's have a look at that. Flater. Or flazer. It's a type of a sedimentary pattern. Fake. Absolutely.
And so it's water in a vapor stage that can burn using implosion. And
using implosion.
And it's incredibly effective, but it looks much like a very direct flame. And he was making and working with this technology. He's an engineer. He used to work in nuclear physics. If they kept this machine, if they kept it just going 24 hours, the water would give such a big electrical charge back that it would nearly...
Okay, so if they keep their machine going, the water gives an electrical charge.
Blow their machinery up.
I've never thought of water as something that really generates static
electricity. He said, coming from his perspective with his scientific team, is that water, he said, has more ability to self-learn than AI. And he said that actually it was constantly reading with you. And a scientist will probably tell you it's H2O, which means it's oxygen and it's hydrogen.
Yes.
When you look at the hydrogen, there are 2 hydrogens. They're feminine in the mode of levity, and then there's a large oxygen.
Feminine in the mode of liberty. No. Atoms do not have genders.
Oxygen, which is masculine in the mode of gravity, and together they create balanced liquid water.
Balanced liquid water. Magic.
Here, I guess I'll say that. I don't want to tell people what to do, because I think that we all have these good intentions. But there's something that I think is very true about what I'm going to say. So several years ago, maybe 7 years ago, I was very last minute invited to this event, this water event in New Zealand. And it was like an hour before I was meant to be there. So I went completely unprepared. I didn't know what to expect. And there had been, I think there were like 27 elders from around the world that had come together.
Well, I'm not sure what to say, but this is probably fake. It felt wrong. This sounds like a plot of a fantasy.
And what I would suggest and say is that water, surprisingly, is a lot like blood. We have different blood types.
Different blood types.
And so where did water come from? And there's several ways in which we can look at that. Science can tell us that 2 things, because the jury seems to be out. One is that water came from asteroids and meteorites, and they base that on how much deuterium is in the ice of the meteorites, because we have more deuterium on the surface of Earth's water than we do coming from the inner Earth's water. Well, actually, it's within the Earth's mantle. It's called primary water. And there are...
Within the Earth's mantle? No. The Earth's mantle is hundreds of degrees at least, going up to 1,000 near the bottom. That's not a place for water. The water that would be in there would immediately turn to vapor and creep out through the cracks out into the volcanoes. We know that a large quantity of Earth's water came from meteorites, and even if there was water in the mantle, it would have bubbled out billions of years ago, in fact.
There's supposedly 3 times
as much drinkable water than
drinkable water within the Earth's mantle held within the ringwoodite crystal than there is on all the surface of the Earth, including the sea.
I wouldn't drink water from there. It's probably covered with all sorts of heavy metal contaminants. It's absolutely insane. How do they know that there's water in the mantle of the Earth? Is that where they think geysers come from, or undersea vents? They don't go that deep.
That's a lot of water. But we're told we're running out of water, apparently, and so where there's scarcity, there's value to people.
Yes, we are running out of water, huh? Or no, not running out of clean water, you see, because it's all getting covered in pollution.
And so you kind of have a little look at that, and then you go, okay, well, if water came from meteorites and asteroids, they would come from different places. They wouldn't have just necessarily come from one big asteroid that put all the water.
Okay, so different interstellar
systems. It's more likely that there have been multiple different asteroids that have hit the Earth to bring different waters from different places, giving us different energy around the world from different bodies of water. Of course, then you can't take away from the fact that water recycles, water reincarnates, water evaporates, goes to the clouds and comes back.
As well.
But we always remember where we came from, where our origins are. We might not think we do, but the water itself has a knowing of where it came from.
It doesn't know where it developed,
where these origins are. And at the same time, there is a divinity within it all.
Divinity.
So if you might imagine that water that was originally
creeping towards the water cult, isn't it?
Stayed or lived or existed on a planet. There's all these biblical stories about, the Garden of Eden and these waters that go through it. And then there's a fall. And then there's all these things. You start going into that area and then you start thinking, well, where did the water come from? What needs to be learned, healed? What is that water want to go home?
I don't think
does that water feel happy here? Like, what's going on? And I think that there's many things we could think in our human mind, but water is more awareness in many ways. I'm sure that there's multiple things we could think about that, but my observation is that there are different energies of bodies of water, big bodies of water around the world. And I think there are 5 main types.
Okay, what is this?
We think of blood types, water
types,
types,
please.
And so one of the things that I also think is that the water within the Earth's mantle, it comes, there's not tons of it, so it has come up and it bubbles up usually from a high kind of mountain or like big hill, and it'll bubble all the way up, and it's got very low mineral content. So deuterium can be kind of seen with its very low mineral.
That's very odd. Why is it that water bubbling up from the Earth has low mineral content? That's completely opposite of what is expected if it's in the mantle, as you suggest.
We have liquid solid gas and then a type of gel or plasma, and that's the kind of water inside of our cells and all these different kinds of things.
Gel or plasma inside of your cells. The human body temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius. To get something to plasma, you have to heat it up a lot. I don't think the human body is 1,000 degrees internal temperature. Vaporizer cells. This is utterly insane.
But he said that there was these studies done on 2 different species of animal, like insect. One was a spider, and one was a termite. So he said that there's a spider. It's the same genetic type of spider, but one lives inside of a cave forever, and one lives outside doing spider things outside. And he said that the spider that was outside doing spider things would live for approximately 40 to 50 days. The spider that lived inside the cave, that never came out, that was only exposed to infrared light, could live for up to 40 years.
Only exposed to infrared light. The point of being inside a cave is that there is no light at all. No infrared light from the sun will reach you. And I suppose if there are other life forms down there, they might be heating up, and that will result in a little bit of infrared. Spiders live long underground. So what?
He said with termites, the queen termite never leaves the nest, whereas all the other little termite guys go off and do all their termite things. And the regular workers only live for about 40 days, whereas the queen could live for up to 50 years.
Special about infrared light. Now, let's go back to your precious 5G here. You're so scared of 5G. The highest level of 5G goes just up below the boundary of infrared. Infrared is a much higher power. It carries a lot more energy with it than the high microwaves of your high-band 5G. So, shouldn't you be more scared of infrared than you are of this 5G interrupting your water? And if there's so much infrared inside the cave, how come your precious spring water was so clear and magic before you exposed it to dangerous low?
We were talking, and she was shown this design that
little wand with mother water. These are definitely the kind of people that will spend thousands on useless little trinkets that do absolutely nothing other than bolster their own placebo effects.
Silver tip that you hold. So basically, you're supposed to just stir your water with it, and it's meant to structure your water. This is a very big blanket.
Structure it. Here's something else that will structure water. A freezer.
The term that we use is structured water. And I'll get into that if anyone wants me to. I'm happy to talk more about it. What I've seen, and using tap water as my control, which has a lot of natural disorder, which is why it's helpful to know signature patterns, is that when I've used the anymore, although they've said that it's passed all these scientific tests, that's not what I'm so much interested in. Because just because something might have a higher electromagnetic field or something, I don't know if you realize that the power of anger. Power of anger gives you a big electrical field. It doesn't actually just bring it all into you.
Anger gives you a bigger electric field. Well, maybe from 1 millivolt to 1.1 millivolts. I don't know.
Actually, you're exploding it out. That's why everyone can feel anger. Love goes further, but
love goes further. No. Emotions don't generate bigger electric fields. And you know what generates the biggest electric field of all? High voltage transmission lines. So why don't you go stand right under one for a full day and soak up all of the nice love that it gives you?
What I'm saying is that just based off electromagnetic fields and various different things, we want to know what the feeling is that's coming out, what the energy is, and that it's powerfully good. So whenever I've used quartz tends to restructure it or improve the energetic qualities of water. It makes water feel better, shall we say. But then,
feel better.
What about the water inside that quartz? So what I see as a signature pattern of quartz, I don't see something different than that. I see that water will design the wand.
All right. And this is quite enough for watching. And if I have time, I will record a second episode where I will finish up this dumpster fire of video.